I'm joined today by Andre Raffinson, who's the co-founder of Jinbi. This is a very, very interesting project. Andre, thanks for joining me. You know, one of the big discussions that exists in the cryptocurrency space is Bitcoin, whether it's trading at 19,000 US dollars or 6,000 US dollars. It's all imaginary in the sense that it's not really backed by anything. The American gold standard of the past was different in a sense in that there was a certain amount of precious metals that the United States held, which were a backing for the US dollar paper currency and coin currency. Talk to us about the idea of Jinbi, and it's sort of a combination of a gold standard but for cryptocurrency.
Yes, thank you very much for having me today. Looking back, let's go back in history a little bit. Every single time there has been a renaissance or great buildup of civilizations, Greek, Roman, Egyptian, even as far back as Babylonian, and recently the US and the Western Empire, they all started off with sound money. They all started off with gold-backed currencies, if not gold in itself, physical, and silver. At the end of their imperialistic cycles, they would shun away from the gold and silver standard. They would dilute themselves. They would put copper, like the Romans did. They would put more and more copper in the gold coins until there was almost no gold left. Exponential wars, conflicts, dilution of currency, dilution of wealth, and collapse. I believe we are seeing the same cycle. The United States was the greatest empire in the world, was built over about 150 years, gold-backed currency that was taken off in the 70s. And I believe we are getting close to a substantial correction in the markets. I'm not saying it's going to be a full collapse. I'm just based on history and what's ahead of us. I believe that we will at some point go back to the gold-backed currency in one form or another.
At some point the US dollar will go back to being a gold-backed currency?
I would say, if not the US dollar, but a global currency that will represent US dollar or the US dollar itself will have to go back to the gold-backed currency. Because the current state, it's not going to survive. Already now, the dollar is coming back home. The Chinese market, the Russian markets, the Brazilian, the emerging markets are basically getting out of the dollar. And once the dollar starts coming back home, things are going to happen. Interest rates are going to rise. We're probably going to have, if not hyperinflation, but probably some kind of inflation. And in order to prevent a situation where wealth is completely diluted, highly probably, we'll have to reinvent the gold standard in one way or another. Looking at Russians and the Chinese, they've been hoarding gold for the past 10 years, basically after the crisis in 2008. And now they are the largest consolidated. They are holding the largest gold stocks in the world. They are getting ready for something. And I believe they're getting ready for a reset.
So let's talk about how Jinbi fits into this, right? You've got a sort of traditional gold investment holdings organization combined with blockchain technology and a cryptocurrency. So talk about how that works. The idea being that the Jinbi token would be backed by actual physical gold that the organization holds. Is that correct?
That is correct. So Jinbi, we have a shareholding and an agreement with International Precious Metals, which is a refinery, a smelter and refinery, and they store gold. We also have agreements with a Swiss entity. And what we do is basically link the crypto, the ERC20 token, Ethereum-based token, with the gold physically. It's registered. From the gold, it goes out of the mines till it sits in the vaults. There's a smart contract that logistically follows the process all the way. And the token is registered physically to gold that has its own number and is stored. So it is, looking back in old-fashioned sense, it's like holding a share in a gold, I would say not a mine, but a gold storage, or having a certificate that proves that you own a piece of gold somewhere. Now, the problem with the papers is that we have third parties that overpaper them. And today we have more paper contracts in the market and there's gold available. At least that's what's proven.
And let's make sure people understand that. So what you're saying is that right now, if you're investing in gold indirectly, so for example, could be through an ETF, there's other ways to sort of indirectly invest in or own gold or shares of gold stocks. What you're saying is that if everybody who holds those shares were to attempt to cash them in for the actual gold, that there would not be enough gold to actually cover that. Sort of like a run on banks in a sense.
Totally. So some people will get the gold and a lot of people will not get the gold. So there's absolutely no guarantee, despite the fact that you own a paper contract, that you, at the end of the day, if there is a correction in the market or you want to call in your gold, have it sent home, with a high probability that's not going to happen. So what cryptocurrency solves this in the blockchain, which is a decentralized distributed ledger, it has a full transparency. You can follow the process all the way through the smart contracts. And once the gold is in the vaults, we will, from the first quarter of 2019, have CCTV cameras on it. So the token holder can log in on the account and actually see the physical gold laying in the vaults. At some point, if the token holder, the Jinbi token holder, wish to call in the gold, have it sent home, all they have to do is give us back the tokens. We will register the tokens in our system. We'll send you the gold back. So
okay, let's think through, if we can, the math of it a little bit so I understand exactly how it would work.
Yes.
Jinbi has at any given point in time some amount of gold reserves, of actual gold. I go and I buy $10,000 worth of the JNB token, the Jinbi token. I now own what? I own $10,000 worth of gold based on gold's market value at the time that I buy the tokens, or how is the math done?
At the time that you buy the tokens.
Excellent.
Exactly.
If the value of gold goes up 10% in the 6 months following my purchase, the value of my tokens reflects that by also going up by that same percentage?
That is correct.
Okay. And in the event that I then sell, the idea would be that an increase, because the movement of the token is in parallel with the movement of the market price of gold, at any time that I choose to sell the token, it's tied to a certain amount of gold whose value fluctuates, but the amount of gold that I own through the token stays consistent. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What happens in a situation where you, or not in a situation, I mean, part of what Jinbi does is you acquire more physical gold. How are my $10,000 worth of JNB tokens, which of course are correlated to a certain amount of gold, how are they influenced if you increase your supplies of gold by 5%?
Well, as the aggregate volume of gold increases in our storage, and there is a fixed amount of Jinbi tokens in the market, the more gold we have, the higher value per token that we are holding in the vault is represented. And this is hence why we can pay the dividends every 6 months.
I see. So even though, so that's how you sort of, so if we can take a step back, if I have $10,000 worth of gold and the value of gold stays exactly the same, so after 6 months, I still just have $10,000 worth of gold. If Jinbi acquires more gold, that will also push up the price of the token or pay a dividend, even though it doesn't change the amount of gold that I actually own?
Yes. So as long as you hold the token, and as long as we keep increasing our storage volume, you will participate in dividend. Now, should you decide to sell your token to us and get your physical gold back, this is basically like selling a share in a Fortune 500 company. Once you're sold and you exit the market, you don't participate in dividend going forward. But as long as you hold a share, and as long as we keep increasing the value of our facilities, or the storage facilities, you will participate in in the dividends. So the token will represent the value that you have bought yourself into, which is gold. Additionally, we will give you dividends as we keep mining more and more gold.
So there are some risks here, right? So because of there are clearly advantages to having an asset-backed cryptocurrency that answer a lot of the problems that some people have identified in the cryptocurrency space. Of course, when you have all this gold, that presents a security consideration, right? You don't want to have that gold potentially compromised. You also need to consider that there is overhead. There are significant fixed costs for storing the gold. How are you thinking about that?
Well, we're not going to charge the Jinbi token holders to store the gold for at least the first couple of years. Once we need to reach the critical mass. Now, our positioning in international precious metals is a minority stake. They actually sell gold. They rent out gold. There is actually a market in leasing and renting out gold for the larger banks that need to have gold holdings in order to support their contracts. And that creates an interest of anywhere from 5 to 8% coming into the business. That interest rate we push back to the Jinbi token holders. So the storage cost will be completely insignificant. They will basically drown in aggregate business coming in. So that's not going to be significant for the Jinbi token holders. And for the first 2 years, we won't see any charges on that.
Should we be thinking of this as a cryptocurrency that's backed by gold, right? Where we basically have a crypto problem being solved by gold? Or is this really a gold mining and trading investment that is made more efficient by the blockchain? I'm sort of unsure whether it's one or the other.
It's both. It's both, because we guarantee a minimum amount of gold in order to support the 10 million tokens that it will be selling on the market, and we're in the process of selling. So that is a guarantee. Where the risk is whether how much extra gold are we going to mine beyond that. The international precious metals have tied themselves into 17.5 tons of gold over the next 5 years. The mines that are producing the gold are in full production, so we basically see a consistent flow of gold coming in. And as we help them to finance expansion of a couple of the mines, we expect to have much more gold coming in. So we're not worried about risk connecting to the 10 million tokens, but we're gambling on or putting a risk into the mining business, like the mining business is. And the question is how much extra gold we're going to get out. And this will be audited on a quarterly basis and will be fully transparent. So that's the business end of it. In order to justify the value of the token, and in order to have a full transparency, we use the blockchain. So anybody can get in and audit basically from outside the blockchain to see how many tokens in the market, what is the value, and how they're connected. So we are solving problem for both ends.
Any concerns at all generally just about the environmental impact of mining overall? And this isn't really particular to gold, right? I mean, this could apply to diamonds. This could apply to all sorts of other materials, including materials that go into making mobile phones, for example. How do you sort of account for or conceptualize that there is not a zero environmental impact here?
Well, it's impossible to run mines, to be frank, and have a zero impact. Of course, there's an impact, but we use the most modern machinery. It's a Western consortium of Canadians, Germans, and Scandinavian companies and British-based companies that are doing this in Africa and Colombia. So we use the most modern machinery. We're trying to do it as good as possible without using too much water. We use dry methods. It's new technology that is developed in California. We do whatever we can, but to have a zero impact in mining business is outright impossible.
Yeah, that's for sure. This is a very interesting project. We're talking about the idea of gold-backed cryptocurrency in the JNB token. Jinbi is the organization, and we've been speaking with Andre Raffinson, who's Jinbi's co-founder. Andre, thank you so much. We're going to be following it, and people can use the links in the video description to find out more.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.